we are taking a fresh look at this theme of salvation even throughout the holidays. And of course, it is absolutely obvious that Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, relates to salvation. But we're going to take it a step further, because salvation isn't just what happened back when, but salvation is what's happening right now. And Yom Kippur has a lot to say about that. You heard me say already before introducing the Torah service that Yom Kippur is all about life. But also I said that sanctification is also all about life. And then I told you that the manifestation of life is pretty much the fruit of the Spirit. So that means that love is all about life, and joy and peace and faith and perseverance. Wait a minute, all of this is about life? You see, our creator infused his creation with life, but not in a boring way, but rather in a colorful and varied and creative. I say creative already. I'm the one who's not very creative with my words, so I cannot do justice to the diversity of his creation, but all of it manifests his nature, and his nature is life. When you boil everything down to the bare minimum, you arrive at life. That is what he is, if we can use that word. That is who he is. Life. So all of creation is related to life, and it comes back to this issue of life. It's going to be a manifestation of life. And we know that also because in 1 Corinthians 15 says that the last enemy that God will place under the feet of Yeshua will be death. Now, you would have thought that the last enemy is Satan, Hasatan. But as a matter of fact, Satan has a Lord that he serves to, and that is death. And maybe you think, well, but wait a minute, death, is it a person? No. You know, we, by being children of Adam and Eve, we are born dead, and we have a master. Sin is our master, right? We serve sin in the flesh, but that doesn't mean that sin is a person, right? So sin is a principle to which we are in servitude as slaves. In the same way, Satan has a master over him, but it's not a person. It's a principle. It is death. But death is that which is in opposition to life. Therefore, is God's enemy, because God is life. So his very essence is life. To approach him and to come near to him, those who have been tainted with death, a transformation needs to occur. God has to infuse those who he desired to approach him, he has to infuse them with life, because they can't do it themselves. Once you are dead, you cannot bring yourself back to life. So we need a resurrection of sorts, a real resurrection. Life again from the dead, in order to be able to approach him, to come into his presence. But if you have, if you think, well, I mean, we're reading in Scripture about people who are alive. Yes, we are reading about priests who are alive, who are supposed to come into the tabernacle and into the temple and bring sacrifices to him. But even in order for them to do that, God has provided a way to infuse them with life. And as a matter of fact, he has provided 3 different ways to infuse them with life. We talked about these before. These are the 3 liquids that we find in Scripture. Number 1 is water. God infuses life through water because in Scripture, water is called water of life. But this water of life, it's so it infuses with life at the basic level. But our need is so profound that we need another level of infusion with life. So he provided blood. And Leviticus says that he has given us blood because blood is what makes atonement by reason of the life that is in it. By reason of the life. You heard me say that if you take blood and you turn it around and you look for the active ingredient of blood is life. In other words, what makes atonement isn't really the blood. What makes atonement is the life that is in the blood. Blood is just the vehicle. Life is the active ingredient. So what makes atonement is life, because to make atonement is to infuse with life. And that is what he accomplishes through the blood. And of course, we are making all kinds of connections to our Messiah. That is why he died on the cross and shed his blood. That's why he is the Lamb of God. And that's why he became a human being, a man, a real human being, 100% human, 100% divine, so that he may be able to die on our behalf. So God has given us water, which is the Word, the water of the Word, Ephesians 5. He has given us blood to infuse us with life, but there is yet one more level required to be able to enter into his presence, to be able to enter all the way into the Holy of Holies. And that is anointing. So the third liquid is oil. He has provided the oil, symbolizing the Holy Spirit. He has provided the oil to show us, to teach us that we need his anointing, and that anointing infuses us with life. It sanctifies. Because to make holy is to infuse with life, with the highest degree of life, the highest level of life. Once you've gone through the purification with water and the purification through the blood of the sacrifice, then the person is anointed. Now they can come in to the Holy of Holies. Wow. Only the priest, only the high priest. But our high priest has anointed us with the Holy Spirit of God, that we may come into his presence, as Hebrews says, come into the Holy of Holies and worship him. So to sanctify is very closely related to atonement, to atone for, because they are both accomplished through life. Sanctification is accomplished through the anointing with the oil, and atonement is accomplished through the infusion with the life of the sacrifice. The goal is the same, to infuse you with life, over and over abundant life. You can never have enough life. because he is infinitely life. So for us to approach him, to come before him, he infuses us with life over and over, that we are overflowing, and so we can come into his presence, resolving not only the issue of sin, but the issue of death. Not only physical death, but all of those manifestations of death that we have, the works of the flesh, all of this, all the uncleanness of the world that we carry. Sometimes you watch things and your eyes see things and your ear hear things and you just feel filthy and contaminated from the world. And he cleanses us. He infuses us with life. You see why I love Leviticus? Oh, there's a little critter over there. I know. It's just a, what, grasshopper or something? A cricket. All right. I will edit this part from the video today. So. Okay, so what? That's life. Yes. So with all of this background now of Leviticus, I need to tell you, so my nickname is the Leviticus nerd. I don't know, my daughter was around here today, and she gave me that nickname. Now, I began to study Leviticus in the year 2001, and I remember because it was right around 9/11. That's when I began to study Leviticus in depth, like in this way. And I have told you many times that I'm still halfway through it. Literally, I had never, to this point, I had never taken the time to study chapter 16 of Leviticus. So I can stand up and teach at any moment from any chapter 1 through 15. I know exactly where I'm at, I know what they're all about, and I can teach it. But beginning with chapter 16, that's where I'm stuck. So, or at least I was. Because in preparation for today and for this season, the Lord said, okay, how about we do chapter 16? All right, let's do that. Of course, I'm not done, but I began, and I got a glimpse of what chapter 16 is all about, and it is amazing. So we're going to work our way through chapter 16, and then we'll have a ministry time at the end, and then we'll have lunch. How about that? All right, so Leviticus 16, come with me. As I was preparing, I realized that we know some things about chapter 16 of Leviticus. We know that Aaron was supposed to bring a sacrifice for himself, right? And then bring a sacrifice for the people. So he was supposed to do atonement for himself and then do the atonement for the people. The problem with that is that it's a little more complicated than that. It's a little more elaborate. But because we have that idea, we come to the text with our idea that, no, Aaron needs to take care of his stuff first and then do all the stuff for the people. But that's not how it goes. So I was trying to read the chapter, and I was getting confused. And I had to make some columns and put the Hebrew over here and the English and try to make sense of it all. And I needed some help. It wasn't easy until I realized what's going on here. It is organized in a way that's different than what we expect. So if we were writing this chapter, we will have Aaron do everything about him and then do everything about the people. But that's not how Scripture was written. So he starts with a little bit about his own atonement and then moves to do a little bit about the people, and then he goes back about his own atonement, and then he goes back about the people, and it keeps going back and forth. If you think you're going to read straight down, you're going to get confused. And maybe that's already happened to you. It happened to me. And that's where we quit. That's where we get to the end of the chapter, and we're like, I have no idea what I just read. But it's Leviticus. I'm just going to keep going. Because I have no idea what chapter 15 was, and I really don't know what 17 is about. So we're just going to keep quiet, right? We won't confess to each other that we have no clue what this book is about. And that way we don't embarrass each other, right? That's the agreement, unspoken agreement we have, right? We don't understand it, but we're not going to embarrass each other admitting that you don't understand it, and neither do I, so we'll just, But you've come to Sukkot where we don't do that, so we are going to wrestle with this. So, all right. Chapter 16, verse 1. Now the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they had approached the presence of the Lord and died. That's the context. They died in the sanctuary, in the Holy of Holies. They were bringing incense to the Lord. That's in chapter 10. The chapters between 10 and 16, that is 11, 12, all the way to 15, are telling us all of the different sources of uncleanness. So that in chapter 16, now that we understand everything about uncleanness, we can see what the Day of Atonement does, taking care of all these uncleanness, including the uncleanness of the sons of Aaron who died in the tabernacle. And death is the highest source of uncleanness. So when we come to chapter 16, the writer assumes we are following, we're tracking along, and we understand, we've understood the points that he's been making. But we don't have time to review all of that, of course. But that's the context here. These guys died in the sanctuary, and they made the sanctuary unclean. Now we need to take care of it here in chapter 16. So verse 2 then says, the Lord said to Moses, tell your brother Aaron that he shall not enter at any time into the holy place inside the veil before the mercy seat which is on the ark, or he will die. Apparently, before that, they could enter at any time. But the Lord says, now we're going to limit that for your own good. We'll do it only once a year. And he gives us the reason. He says, for in the cloud I will appear over the mercy seat. I know your translation is going to kind of say something similar to what I'm saying, but I took the liberty to go in mainly to rearrange so that it follows the Hebrew order. So I'm saying the same things, but maybe in a different order a little bit. So here's the reason. For in the cloud I will appear over the mercy seat. In other words, because I am showing up and my presence is in the Holy of Holies, he may die if he enters. If he keeps coming in every day, it increases the possibility of him doing something wrong and dying. So verse 3 says, Aaron shall enter the holy place with this. So here we're going to have a list of the things that he's going to bring. It's not exhaustive, but it's the beginning. With a bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. A bull and a ram. A bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Okay, so I want us to do something together here. I want us to almost graphically organize the chapter so that we may track along with it. So I'm going to say that this side to my left, to your right, this is going to be Aaron's side. And over here is going to be the people's side. So over here, we're reading here in verse 3 that Aaron should come and bring a bull for a sin offering and a ram. So over here, we're going to place the bull and the ram for Aaron. The bull is going to be for the sin offering and the ram for the burnt offering. All right? We're going to get in a moment to this other side, and we're going to fill in the blank here. Verse 4. He shall put on the holy linen tunic. So get the dress that we saw in chapters 8 and 9 for Aaron, and also in Exodus. And the linen undergarments shall be next to his body, and he shall be girded with the linen sash and attired with the linen turban. These are holy garments. And he shall bathe his body in water. Oh, remember water, the first of the three liquids that infuses people with life. Right? So we have this here. As a matter of fact, he had already gone through all of this in his ordination. So back in chapter 8 and 9, he had gone through all of this. So he'd already been bathed with water and sprinkled with the blood, put the blood on the right earlobe and the right thumb and the right big toe, symbolizing the totality of the person, sprinkled with blood, and then anointed. So he had all three liquids. He could come into the presence of God. But can we ever have enough life? No. God wants more. I need you to be more filled with life and more filled with life. So he says, just take a dip in the water before you get dressed. And then dress with holy garments. Verse 5. And from the congregation of the sons of Israel, he shall take 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. So now we are on the side of the congregation. 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. What do we have on this side? A bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. And over here we have 2 goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. All right, so we're going to try to keep this organized so that we can read the chapter and understand it. So from the congregation of the sons of Israel, he shall take 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Then Aaron shall bring near, he shall bring near, I think, what do we have on the screen? Offering. Aaron shall offer the bull. When you hear the word offer the bull, immediately you're thinking he put it on the altar and it's going up in smoke already. That's not what's happening. That's not what the text says. The word here is to bring near. He hasn't killed it yet. He hasn't put it on the altar. It's not burning yet. He just brought it near. All right? So that's why I changed the wording in what I'm reading here, because that to reflect what the Hebrew says. So, verse 6, Aaron shall bring near the bull for the sin offering, which is for himself, right? We know that, the bull, that he may make atonement for himself and for his household, for his family. He shall take the 2 goats. Whoa, the 2 goats. Whose goats are those? The people, the congregation. Great, now we're tracking. So take the bull for the sin offering and take the 2 goats for the sin offering for the people. So he shall take the 2 goats, verse 7, and present them before the Lord. That's not the same as bring them near, right? So whenever it is bringing near, I've already made the change, and I'll read it that way. So he present them before the Lord at the doorway of the tent of meeting, at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then verse 8 says that Aaron shall cast lots for the 2 goats, right? The 2 goats that are for the people. So one lot for the Lord and the other lot for the scapegoat. That's where we run into problems here in chapter 16. Because we've heard that people say, well, that it's Azazel, which probably means the devil, or who knows what other things it means. And so we get sidetracked, and we can't pass that. We can't get past that because we can't resolve this issue of what is Azazel. What is this scapegoat? And why does it go, why is it live? Why is it taken into the wilderness? Does it die or not? And what if it doesn't die? What if it comes back? What if it shows up in your backyard? What happens to your sin that we're supposed to go away? You see how silly it gets? So we can't get past to receiving what this passage has for us. But I've decided we're going to get past. We're just going to keep reading. Whatever that means, we'll get to it someday, not today. We're not going to resolve this one, but we're going to receive what this passage has for us. So, verse 9. Then Aaron shall bring near, now we have that word, bring near, the goat on which the lot for the Lord fell, and make it a sin offering. So 2 goats, throw the lots. One is going to be the scapegoat that eventually is going to be taken into the wilderness. The other one is going to be for the Lord. It's going to be offered as a sin offering. All right? So we're talking about the 2 goats for the people, for making atonement for the people. Verse 10. And the goat on which the lot for the scapegoat fell shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement upon it. It's not making atonement with it. He's not going to kill it and bring the blood so he can make atonement for the people with the blood of this goat, but the atonement is going to be on it. The priest is going to make atonement on it. How is that going to happen? Well, it says you'll make atonement upon it to send it into the wilderness as the scapegoat. Then Aaron shall bring near the bull of the sin offering. Did you hear that? The bull of the sin offering. Who's that for? Do you see how it can get confusing? Yeah. Right? He started talking about, hey, let's talk about the 2 goats and let's do this and that. By the way, let's switch over to his own bull. If you're not tracking, it's very easy to get confused. So now we're back to talking about his bull, even though we're not done with the 2 goats for the people. But that's how we get the chapter. So Aaron shall bring near the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself and for his household. And he shall slaughter the bull for the sin offering, which is for himself. All right, so he brings it in. To bring it in doesn't mean to present it as an offering just yet. It means he brings it near to the Lord. Then he's going to slaughter it. And again, we're thinking, oh, he slaughtered. Now he's going to burn it. Nope. We got to go step by step. He's just slaughtering it and catching the blood. Verse 12. He shall take, okay, we just slaughtered the bull. Now we're going to go somewhere else. Before we finish with the bull, we're going to go somewhere else. You see, again, we got to track along. Verse 12, he shall take a fire pan full of coals of fire from upon the altar before the Lord. So he had to go, let's say that, here's his stuff, here's the animal from the people, here is the Holy of Holies, here's the altar of sacrifice. So he has to get a fire pan and go out to the altar of sacrifice, put some coals from the fire, and then bring it back in. And verse 12 says, in the middle it says, and two handfuls of finely ground sweet incense, and bring it inside the veil. So he put the incense in it, and he goes into the Holy of Holies. He's going to go inside the veil and bring this fire pan with the fire in it and the incense. What's going to happen when you put the incense upon the fire? Smoke, right? So he's going to bring this and create a cloud. Does that sound familiar? A cloud of the presence of God. And we're going to see the purpose of that cloud. Verse 13. He shall put the incense on the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of incense may cover the mercy seat that is on the ark of the testimony. Otherwise, he will die. What's the purpose of the cloud? To avoid for Aaron to see the Lord straight up. Remember how the Lord said to Moses, well, I can't show you my face. I'll show you my back. This is the equivalent of that. I can't let you see me fully in the Holy of Holies. I want to create this cloud so that you can kind of like, I can kind of see him, you know, instead of seeing God fully, or he will die. Even though he was anointed and sprinkled and all of these filled with life and life and life. What Aaron needed was a resurrected body that had done away with sin forever. That's what God is going to do for all. For them back then and for us and for the future. That's the only way to solve once and for all this problem of sin and death. So, verse 14. Moreover, he shall take some of the blood of the bull. We're back to the bull. Remember, we had slaughtered the bull, caught the blood. Now he's going to bring some of the blood, and sprinkle it with his finger on the mercy seat on the east side. Which one is the east side? Okay, so the tabernacle, well, towards Dallas, yeah. We're working this way today, right? We're working this way. So here's the altar of sacrifice. Here's the Holy of Holies. So here's the ark, right? We have the ark right here. So the east side is the entrance of the tabernacle. Remember we talked about this a little bit last week. To go out from his presence is to go away from, towards the east. And he comes and he enters from the east. So the east of the ark is simply the front of it. As you walk in, that's the front. So he's going to let's see, where were we at? Verse 14, right? Okay, yeah, 14. So in front of the mercy seat, he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. No, I'm sorry. I went ahead of myself. The first part of verse 14. Moreover, he shall take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the mercy seat. Okay, on it. Then the second half of verse 14 says, also in front of the mercy seat. Is there a difference? Yes. So when you put it on the mercy seat, now you are cleansing, you are making atonement for the Holy of Holies. Then you move back and you're going to sprinkle it in front of it. Basically, it's going to fall on the floor. That way you're cleansing the holy place. Remember, we have holy, Holy of Holies. And we have the altar out there, the altar of sacrifice. So now he did atonement, verse 14, for the Holy of Holies by sprinkling it on it, and then by sprinkling it in front of it, he's making atonement for the holy place. And so we come to verse 15. And actually, in 14, he sprinkled it 7 times, right? Verse 15, then he shall slaughter the goat for the sin offering. So we're back over here, right? So he just went in and he made atonement for himself because it was the blood of the bull. Now he comes back out and he is going to do the same thing with the goat for the people. So verse 15, he shall slaughter the goat of the sin offering, which is for the people, and bring its blood inside the veil and do with the blood as he did with the blood of the bull. Same thing. And sprinkle it on the mercy seat and in front of the mercy seat. Right? He's going to all lengths to say, I want you to get this right. I don't want you to get this wrong. I don't want you to die. 16, he shall make atonement for the holy place because of the impurities of the sons of Israel and because of their transgressions in regard to all their sin. And thus he shall do for the tent of meeting. So notice that. Atonement for the holy place and atonement for the tent of meeting. That's what he just did for both of them. One on the mercy seat and one in front of the mercy seat. And thus he shall do for the tent of meeting, which abides with them in the midst of their impurities. So because God dwells in the tabernacle, which is in the middle of the people with their sin and their iniquities and their impurities, this is necessary so that all their uncleanness that reaches the Holy of Holies may be cleansed. So how does it reach? You ask. Well, this is the first instance of Wi-Fi. That's how it reaches. Somehow the holiness that is in the tabernacle can detect sin, iniquity, uncleanness. And if it is left unaddressed, the holiness of God is going to break out and people are going to die. The reason for the existence of the tabernacle was so that the presence of God can dwell with Israel. But the reason for Leviticus is to maintain the holiness of the tabernacle so that the tabernacle may be a source of life for Israel and for the nations instead of a source of death. The role of the priest is absolutely essential. It's life-giving. It makes a difference between life and death. This is their work, to infuse every day all the holy objects with life so that the presence of God can be maintained. Not that he is such a capricious God and, if we don't do exactly, the way he does it, he's going to break out and he's going to kill us all. That's so far from the reality. But what it is that he is a holy God. I was thinking I can design a bumper sticker, instead of a smiley face and say, smile, Jesus loves you, right? I want to design one that says, you need to fear God. Have a balance. Yes, he loves you, but if you don't fear him, God is a consuming fire. And we don't want anything to do with that. We don't want to know him experientially that way. Right? Let's learn from the experience of others what the fire of God does instead of through our own experience. All right. Verse 17. No one shall be in the tent of meeting. Make sure that no one else is there, only the anointed priest. I don't want anybody else to die. When he goes in to make atonement in the holy place, until he comes out. Make sure there's no one when he goes in until he comes out. Until he comes out. So I was reading this, minding my own business, trying to make sense of this. And I realized, until he comes out, what kind of a word is that? Yatsah. This is the word for the Exodus. Every time you find this little word, you got to pause. What does it mean until he comes out? What was he doing in there? He went in, he did the blood of the bull, took care of it all. The blood of the goat, took care of it all. When he's done, now he comes out. But he comes out as Israel did out of Egypt. In great victory, God has defeated the enemy of Israel. The enemy of Israel was this death that if it remained untreated and not dealt with, was going to cause death to the entire people. That is spiritual warfare. And God says, once the priest takes care of the death that is threatening you, you are victorious. You go out as if you were coming out of Egypt in an Exodus-like victory. Now that's different. I don't know about you, but I deal with death a lot. Death wants me. And I don't just mean physical death. You know, that one wants me too. Every time I get on the freeway, you know, it's like, what are you trying to do to me? Stay away from me. But all manner of death attacks us every day. It comes from the TV, or through the TV, through the social media, through the words of people. And I have to admit it. It comes from here too. It comes from here and it goes straight to here, and it wants to come through here, or it wants to let it in through here and through here. It wants me to do things that are going to bring death to me. It wants me to go places that are going to bring death to me. I need to be infused with life so this death is defeated and I can walk, I can come out in freedom and victory. Wow. So Leviticus is pretty cool after all. Let's keep reading. Let's go to verse 18. Verse 18, well, let's read it. Then he shall go out, Yatsah again. So he shall go out to the altar that is before the Lord. So we're not done, but he goes out. Part of it is already done. We took care of the atonement with the bull and with the one goat. We have more work to do. So he goes out to the altar that is before the Lord. That's the altar of sacrifices, and make atonement for it, and shall take some of the blood of the bull for him, right? Some of the blood of the bull, and of the blood of the goat, and put it in on the horns of the altar on all sides with his finger, he shall sprinkle some of the blood on it 7 times and cleanse it and sanctify it from the impurities of the sons of Israel. Wow, there's a lot there. He goes out to the altar of sacrifice. He already took care of what was in the tent. Now he goes out to take care of this altar of sacrifice, and he needs to sprinkle it with the blood from both his own and the people to cleanse the altar every year, to cleanse the altar of sacrifice from the impurities and the sin and the iniquity of the nation, so that whatever is offered on this altar, symbolizing worship and prayer, is received and accepted and is not mixed in with death. I don't think I need to explain that a lot, right? Very, very practical for us. Verse 19. Verse 20, actually. When he finishes atoning for the holy place and the tent of meeting and the altar, he shall bring near the live goat. Oh, yeah, we still have that. We shall bring near the live goat. Then Aaron shall lay both of his hands on the head of the live goat, confess over it all the iniquities of the sons of Israel. What do you mean? You mean that everybody is going to come to him and tell him, hey, I did this, and I did that, and I did this, and I did that. And you're like a Catholic priest. And then he's going to say, okay, now let me confess what you did. Let me confess it, that it goes. No, that's not what it means. We have 2 prayers in Scripture that are model prayers, pretty close to what the priest would have said. One is Daniel, the other one is Ezra. They come and confess the sin of the people, and they include themselves. We have sinned. We have walked away from you. That's why we are here in exile. Please forgive us. Please forgive us. It's a prayer on behalf of the nation, for the sin of the nation, for the sin of us all. Prayed as he is placing his hands on the head of the goat. And confess over all the iniquity of the sons of Israel and all their transgression in regard to all their sins. And he shall lay them on the head of the goat. Lay what? What is them? All the transgression, all their sin, all the iniquity. They are transferred over, they are laid on the head of the goat, and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who stands in readiness. A man who is ready to do that. Stay with me. I know here's where squirrels start running all over the place. Ooh, what's the meaning of the man standing in readiness? What's the meaning of the live goat? And what happens to go in the wilderness? And what if it doesn't die? You know, that. We're going to close our ear. We're not going to get into any of that. But we're going to stay right here in the text, right? Something happens here, that there is a transfer of our sin collective as a nation, goes on the head and it is sent away. And that is atonement. It's another form of atonement. 22. The goat shall bear on itself all their iniquities to a solitary land, and he shall release the goat in the wilderness. We're going to leave that alone, right? Then Aaron shall come into the tent of meeting and take off the linen garments which he put on when he went into the holy place, and shall leave them there, and he shall bathe his body, more water, more infusion with life, in a holy place. What? We have a holy place already. It's the holy place. What do you mean, a holy place? Well, we don't have much time to get into this, but this is inside of the tabernacle, in the courtyard, there's a place for him to be able to do that. And then it says, and put his clothes on and come forth. So after he did all of this stuff with the live goat, he comes back, he changes clothes, he's going to bathe first, put his clothes on, and then he comes forth. Yatzah. Again, the word of the Exodus. God has dealt with the rest of the death that he needed to deal with in order for the people to be free from the consequence of death. Very strategic, the use of this word for the Exodus. He comes out in victory. And it says that, and he offer his burnt offering in the burnt offering of the people. Now that all the death has been dealt with, and that he has come out in freedom, now he can offer the ram for himself and the ram for the people for the burnt offering. These are chapter 1 of Leviticus. These are dedication offerings. These are worship offerings. Now he can worship. Take care of the death. You come out in freedom. Now you can worship. So sometimes when we come to worship without taking care of the death and receiving the freedom, and we go to worship and we don't connect. It's like, I'm just singing songs here. My death is all intact inside of me. Nothing is happening. And some people feel like they need to sing more, longer, and sing louder, and do, it's like, it's not a show, bro. Go and take care of the death. Take care of the death. We are priests. We're supposed to know how to take care of the death. How did the death get in here? How do you go to the Lord and have him take care of the death? We'll get into that in a moment. So at the end of 24, he offered his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people and make atonement for himself and for the people. Meaning with the blood of the burnt offering, he's going to pour it on the altar, and that infuses with life. Over and over, you can never have enough life. Every sacrifice you make is going to infuse with life. Verse 25. Then he shall offer up in smoke the fat of the sin offering on the altar. Oh, so we were dealing with all the sin offering. We were dealing with the blood, but we had not put the meat of the animal, we haven't put it on the altar yet. It hasn't been burnt yet. We still have stuff to do. So, 25. Then he shall offer up in smoke, right, the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The one who released the goat as the scapegoat shall wash his clothes and bathe his body with water, and afterward he shall come into the camp. 27. But the bull of the sin offering and the goat of the sin offering, right, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place, shall be taken outside the camp. You follow that? The bull of the sin offering and the goat of the sin offering, meaning the meat, that they were already slaughtered, this blood was already taken, it was already used to make atonement, but now we need to deal with the body of the flesh that's going to be burned. So the bull of the sin offering, the goat of the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place, shall be taken outside the camp. So we don't burn it in the altar of sacrifice in the tabernacle. It goes outside the camp. Do you know of any sacrifice, any other sacrifice that took place outside the city? Our atonement sacrifice was crucified outside the city. But wait, there's more. You see, it says that the bull of the sin offering, the bull of the sin offering, and the goat of the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place, shall be taken outside the camp. Shall be taken outside the camp. Shall be taken outside the camp. The word taken, yatzah. It goes out in freedom, in victory, like Israel coming out of Egypt. Freedom. The meat goes out outside the camp to be burnt. And that represents Yeshua. When he was taken outside the city, and we know how that happened. He's carrying a cross. He was up all night, being accused of all manner of lies, beaten, scourged. He can't even carry his own cross. But that walk was a walk of victory. It was as Israel walking out of Egypt. I know it didn't look like it, but it was. And if you're thinking, but where's the victory? Well, Israel comes out of Egypt, and on the third day, I wish I was a preacher. And on the third day, they found themselves trapped. The Egyptians are chasing them. There is wilderness, and there is the ocean. God, save us. He parts the waters. Israel goes through the waters, and the Egyptians want to do the same thing. They go into the ocean, parted, and then God says, oh, you're going to take a shower over here, and they die. But you see, the going into and through the waters represents the death, the burial, and the resurrection coming out on the other side. They walk in victory out of Egypt, and 3 days later, all of this death that was chasing them, the death of the wilderness, the death of the Egyptians, and the death of the ocean, done away with. It was a walk of victory, even though it didn't look like. It looked like a walk of absolute defeat. Going over to be crucified, carrying his own cross. He was walking out of Egypt, and we were going with him. Isn't that amazing? Who would have thought? Who would have thought?